Alright, boys and girls, what we're going to talk about today is I get a lot of people come through concealed carry class, and inevitably, in almost every class, somebody goes home bleeding about the thumbs because they can't get the grip mindset down on a semi-automatic. You can see we're unloaded. I'm not going to get into what I consider the perfect grip, although I'm going to show it to you. Just because there's a bunch of different schools of thought, and what I say isn't, the catch-all, end-all by any standards. You got to figure out what works for you and what works right. I can show you what's going to work best to mitigate recoil, but ultimately you're going to have to do what's going to be work and what's comfortable and what's going to feel good in your hand. What works and what's comfortable may or may not be the best grip in the world for you, or the best grip in the world, but you're going to do what you're going to do. So all I'm going to do is go over some of the real common errors. First, I'm going to start off with what I consider what my grip is. Ultimately, when you're shooting this for mitigating recoil, if we could, we'd hold it up here on the slide. I mean, if that was possible, that would be the best way we could mitigate recoil. That way, all the energy from the bullet would transfer straight into the bones in our arm and allow us to mitigate the recoil. Unfortunately, that's obviously not possible, because when you fire the weapon, the slide's going to move to the rear. So that's what this point on your gun is actually for. Backstrap, tang, whatever you want to call it. So you want to get up into the backstrap, and actually, I'm right-handed. Let me move this camera. I guess I should have thought this over before I did this. Alright. Ultimately, you want to get up into the back of the weapon system as high and as tight as you can. For one-handed shooting, or the beginning of your two-handed grip, that's the first move right there. Now, you would obviously wrap your thumb if you were shooting one-handed. If you're going to shoot two-handed, what the idea here is we're going to open this thumb up, or flag the thumb, and we're going to take all the meat right here, all the meat on our left hand that we can, and we're going to fill up everything that's black on that gun. So one of the easy ways to make sure you kind of got this right is if you start by pointing your thumb at the target with their fingers down here at a 45-degree angle, and then put the gun in there and then close it, that's going to bring you a real good beginner grip. You'll adjust it and modify it as we go. I always tell my students, you can tell you've got it right when your thumb and your index finger are sort of kind of level or straight across the top. Then you know you've got a pretty decent grip. But for the most part, like I said, if you point your thumb at the target and then put the gun in there and close it, that's going to be a decent grip. Now, on to some of the common errors. We got the saucer and teacup deal. I see a bunch of this. This is typically a female's grip who doesn't shoot a lot. They're holding up, I guess. I don't know why. We're not talking about effectiveness. We're talking about safety. There's nothing wrong with that. That is safe grip. It's not going to allow you to mitigate recoil. Every time the gun discharges, it's going to go wherever there's not meat of your hands, where the gun's going to twist, move, or jump to. But like I said, we're not really talking about an effective grip as much as we are safe grip. The other one I see is out here on the trigger guard. They'll literally hold the gun out here on the trigger guard while they shoot. Again, not a very effective grip, but it is relatively safe. You would have to be careful you don't. I've seen somebody try this one, wrap their thumb up on top of the slide. This part moves every time you shoot the gun, so you don't want to touch this in any way. From the frame line down is a great place to put your hands. Up will cause you problems. I've seen this one sort of like we're shooting a rifle, holding out to the end of the barrel. The problem with this is you shoot, jump once, and your hand can move in front of the barrel. If you're getting much forward of the trigger guard, other than maybe getting your finger wrapped, or maybe even 2 fingers wrapped, if you're getting forward of that trigger guard on a full frame gun, you're starting to cause yourself some safety issues. You can end up shooting your hand if you're going to shoot rapidly. The one that gets everybody, and I guess it's an older revolver grip, is they'll grasp the gun with the right hand, and then they'll wrap that thumb over the top of the back. And what happens, and I don't know if I can hold it there, what happens is they'll hold it, and as that slide comes back, it'll catch them, and bang, they're cut. The most common issue I see where people are getting hurt by their guns is that right there. They'll wrap that thumb up over the back of their hand trying to get support. Ultimately, you can see that airspace that it creates. I mean, that obviously lends to this airspace right here will allow the gun to move in there, so it's not an effective grip anyway. But man, I see more people grab that gun up there like so, and then they'll press that trigger and bang, shake their hand. Next thing you know, there's blood all over the place. So, like I said, if you want to work on a good grip, I'll show you the mechanics of it. First thing you're going to do is take your right hand and get as high up into this tang, or this back strap, as you can. Once that's happened, you're going to wrap your fingers around the gun. That's about as good as a one-handed shooting grip as you're going to get. It's a good starter grip for a two-hand. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to truly point our thumb at our target with our fingers down here at a 45-degree angle. You put the gun in there, and then you close it. This is as good as a grip as anybody needs. All the air spaces are as closed as they're going to get, and you've got pretty good, equal pressure left and right, allow you to mitigate the recoil in an effective way. There's so many variations of the grips, and like I said, I'm not going to get into the long and short of any of it. And I'm not telling you my way to grip a pistol is best. It works for me. I can shoot very fast and very accurate from this position. It's going to feel uncomfortable. If you're not used to this grip, the first thing I tell people, especially guys who've been shooting a long time, that's the first thing I tell them is when I try and work on their grip, first thing they say to me is, "This isn't comfortable." Well, after a while it will be, first of all, but even if it's not now, and I understand that it's not, if anything you do, nothing was comfortable the first time you tried it. It all felt strange or weird or whatever. But go to YouTube and type IDPA or you find any Handgun Ninja Master, whatever you want to call it, and you look at their grip. Ultimately, this is the grip they're running. It closes up the airspace. You get up into that trigger guard as tight as you can here. Wrap that rest of it in, lock up all that airspace and all that, and get a good tight grip on the weapon system. You really need to avoid getting that thumb up there behind. I've seen this, which I guess at the angle of this specific weapon system isn't too bad, but again, you fire it once, your hand slides up. Fire it the second time, you're going to be wishing it, and your hand will not stop the slide from coming back. I know you can put your hand just like this, and it's going to leave a big hole, gaping hole in your hand. You can't stop it. So, working on your grip, that's probably the #1 cause of most shooting problems I see on the range. If you're not gripping the pistol properly, everything else is going to go bad. You're not going to be able to mitigate the recoil. You're not going to be able to make quick follow-up shots. You're not going to be. There's just so much you can't do. The grip starts. Everything that's important starts with the grip. So spend a little time practicing your grip. you know, at home with a dry gun, empty, dry gun, you know, sit here, pick the target on the wall. I like to use light switches. They're always at about the right height and all that. But you pick a target at the wall, work out that grip, get my good high tang on there, wrap them fingers in good and tight, open up that hand, put it at my 45-degree angle, put the trigger in there, pick a spot on the wall, press the trigger. Charge it, start again. Make sure I get my good high tang grip, get that hand in there where it needs to be, wrap them fingers, line up them sights, press the trigger. So you do that a couple million times, or however many times you need to do it to make it work right, till it becomes, starts to feel relatively comfortable. Then go out on the range, and one of the biggest common errors I see on the range is, especially with these high caps. I mean, this thing holds 17 rounds. I see these guys go out to quote-unquote train or practice, and they'll put 17 rounds in this magazine, fill it up to capacity, rack it, and just run it dry. They have wasted a lot of good training by running a 17-round magazine dry just on the range. So it really, I mean, that is not the ideal way to do that. What I do is I'll put 2 or 3 rounds in a magazine. I might take, and I have a lot of Glock 17 magazines, and 100, I got about 100 of them or so, but I'll load up all of them. I'll load some up with dummy round snap caps. I will load up 2 or 3 rounds in each magazine, and this allows you to practice your reloads, practice your trigger control. The dummy rounds will, if you're anticipation of recoil, which means right before the gun goes off, you'll do that because you're afraid of that recoil, so you're trying to, the dummy round shooting will help you work that out and help you see what you're doing wrong if you're having bullet impact problems on target. But again, if you just go to 2 or 3 rounds, if you're going to set the gun down on a table while you're shooting, pick it up, get your grip, acquire your grip, bang, 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 fire your 3 rounds, do a reload, reacquire your grip, press your sights out, or acquire your sights. Or if you're putting it in a holster, same thing applies. You throw a magazine in there that you don't know it has from 2 to 5 rounds in it. You do your draw, acquire your grip, get your sights, run through your 4, 5, 6 rounds. Okay, come to slide lock, do my reload, power stroke it, reacquire my grip, get my sights back out there, and or do that. Go ahead and get your sight picture, then go ahead and put your gun up, and then start over, which will allow you to, run your draw over and over and over. But eventually, as you do this, that grip will just become nature. That high tang, deep in the trigger guard, deep in locked up against the fingers, thumb running down the slide of the gun, that will become, just a natural way for you to grip a gun. And then that solves some of the problems. But the big thing is, remember, slide moves. Every time it fires, that slide goes all the way back and all the way forward. So you don't want any part of your body in front of that slide, or more to the point, behind that slide, when you press that trigger, because it's going to cut you, it's going to hurt you. And so if you've taken the class, I kind of showed you my, how I get you into the gun, which, like I said, big, deep, high web grip. Get up in there as tight as you can and wrap them fingers. That's the first step of a good grip. Now we're going to flag that thumb. We're going to put our hand out at our 45-degree angle. We're going to point our thumb at the target, put the gun in that hole, and close it. That's a good grip. That will be an adequate grip. You'll have to work out the bugs and all that stuff, but ultimately that's going to get you good and started. It'll get you a good stepping off point to figure out slight modifications you're going to make to your grip. Some guys like to wrap that finger around the trigger guard. I don't like it. It kind of opens another airspace on the bottom on a full frame pistol. But if that's what you've got to do to make this grip comfortable for you, that's fine, do it. Would prefer you don't, but like I said, you're never going to teach yourself to do something that's absolutely uncomfortable to you. So, well, you can. You just have to put the desire and the effort into it. And a lot of this stuff that I teach, you got to understand, I am not trying to build you into a competition shooter. I'm not trying to build you into a Super Ninja Special Forces whatever soldier. I'm just trying, with a lot of these videos, like I said, I'm a concealed carry instructor. I do these videos primarily so my students who miss something in the class, because I'm moving in the class because I've got all the information the state makes me put out, and then I get into, and they don't allow, it's all built into an 8-hour course, including the range time. So it doesn't give me a lot of time to get in great detail individually with students as much as I would like to. So with the mindset that I understand that a lot of people are going to take the class and they're really not they're going to miss something that I said in the class, or I forget to go over something in the class, which very easily happens. I get sidetracked, people ask me a question, and I completely skip a major component. That's why I do most of these videos, these handling videos, is so you understand that, so you can work out your grip the way you need to make it work for you. One last time, get seated up into the back strap or the tang as high as you can. Get them fingers closed around it. I mean, that's a good solid grip. That's enough that I can index trigger and start pressing the trigger, and the gun will work, and I'll have decent mitigation. The other thing I see is, and I don't know if you can see here, I don't even know how to do it, honestly. I kind of see that. If you see how bad my hand's cocked over, and I really don't have, I've got more meat sticking out here than what I really need to. It kind of needs to it'll float into there and it'll sit. And if you look, the bore of the gun is generally in line with the major bone groups of my arm. So if you've got this going on to where it's not, and you're having to twist your wrist over, that's not going to work. Ultimately, like I said, if you draw a line straight down your arm, straight down the major bone groups, that's where the gun goes in. If you look, that bore is just dead in line with not only the major muscle groups, but the major bone groups of my arm. Get our 45-degree angle, open up that thumb, put the gun in there, close it up. That's going to get you a good sight picture. Get the gun out in front of your face. And the last thing I want to point out is shooting stance. Everybody puts a lot of emphasis on shooting stance. I don't. Again, do I believe the isosceles stance is the best way to mitigate recoil? Absolutely. Do I try and talk people out of the Weaver stance for about 30 or 40 seconds? But you take somebody that daddy or grandpa or whoever their shooting mentor was told them, that Weaver stance is the absolute best way in the world to run that gun. I'm not gonna I can't take that out of you in a one-day class. I can't take that out of you unless you decide. And I try to prove to people how much more energy their body will absorb from the isosceles as opposed to the Weaver stance, and how much faster you can shoot and all that. I go over it in the class, but there is a bunch of people that just aren't going to buy it. The Weaver stance does have its point or its purpose in training. If you're going to be hiding behind things shooting around them, the Weaver stance is good to train from. But for a general stand out in the open combat mindset training, I train out in wide open and in the isosceles stance. So slight bend at the knees, slight bend at the waist, lean into the gun, roll your shoulders over, roll them forward, get the gun out in front of you in both, with both hands with equal length and pressure, and you'll be very, very effective at mitigating recoil, shooting faster, shooting more accurate while you're shooting fast. But do a Google search on IDPA or IPSC and look at the best in the world. You find any of these guys and girls that are out there running these guns and getting paid for it. look at their grips, look at their body position, look at how their shoulders are, look at it all. You know, these people are the best in the world, and they're getting paid a lot of money to shoot, which I'd kill to be able to do. But they're not doing that because it's cool. They're not doing it because all the other kids are doing it. They're doing it because it works. So you know, your grip, and primarily your support hand grip, your reaction hand grip, is as paramount, if not more important, than your primary. I mean, most people get that part right, pretty close. If you have a 9mm and you're having a problem with stovepiping, especially in women, usually, in my experience, what they have is a gun that the length of pull is a little bit too big for them, and they're having to rotate the gun over a little bit to reach the trigger effectively. And I know this video is starting to get a little bit longer than what I wanted, and last thing I'm going to talk about is your trigger position with your trigger finger. Whether you have a trigger safety or not is immaterial. I generally tell people, first of all, the trigger is a press, not a pull, a jerk, slap. You're not even pulling that, so okay, you get sights on target, pull the trigger. No, it's an even press, even pressure press to the back until it, and you know, there's that old adage that the gun should surprise you when you go off. Bullshit. You should know, you should train enough with your weapon system that you are starting to press that trigger, and you can feel when you know it's about to, okay, it's about to drop right there. So I know when this weapon system, that when the hammer's going, or in this case it's a striker, but I know when a hammer's going to drop. That old adage is, a gun should surprise you. Maybe the first time or first couple times you shoot a gun, but especially your carry gun, you don't want it to be surprising you when you go off. You need to know, okay, I got that much pressure on the trigger. I know I can walk around all day with that much pressure on the trigger and point this thing in anything and everything and not hurt it, not destroy it, until I press the rest of the way back. That's when the issue is. But your trigger finger position, what I try to tell people, if you take the first joint of your finger, which is going to be hard to see, you take the first joint of your finger, which is here, I generally tell people that the trigger should be at about the back side of their fingernail. So right there on your finger is a good position. If that makes it any easier to see. So about an equal distance between the tip of your finger and the end of the first joint is where you should be splitting the trigger. That allows you to just what that actually will do will allow you to just manipulate these two joints when you're running the trigger. If you start moving this out, this last chunk of your finger, and I don't know what it's called, segment, if you start doing this as you're running the trigger, what's going to happen is, as I pull that back and I index this muscle group, I'm going to move the barrel. So ideally what you're only going to do is move from here forward, and that way when you do that, it allows maximum accuracy, minimum movement of the weapon system. I'll do that. So when you're pressing the trigger, your first joint here should never move, or as little as possible. It might not be, you know, totally possible for you, but you know, that's when I start to see these girls that have really small fingers, and they come with these big frame guns, which I also don't believe there's not any weapon system that's too big for anybody to run. I have seen 8 and 10 and not, you know, 8-10-year-old kids, little girls, run a full frame Glock like a champ. So don't give me that my hands are too small. It doesn't matter. If you learn the proper technique and you're willing to learn the proper technique, you can shoot any gun. You know, I've always tried to look for a good analogy for this, and I actually heard a guy by the name of James Yeager say it, and I'm going to use it. You know, everybody talks about the grip angles and all that, and I've always said, yeah, that's bullshit. You should be able to pick up any gun. The sight radius and the sight alignment's the same on any gun. You watch Top Shot, there was a guy on there, well, I used to be a Glock shooter, and they put that Beretta in my hand, and horse shit. you suck that day. It happens to everybody. Suck it out, own it, and move on. But like I said, I was watching a video with James Yeager on it, and he said that, you know, that grip angle and all that would be like saying, you know, I can drive the shit out of a Ford and I can go up and down the hill and all that, but if you put me in a Chevy, I'll hit everything on the road. Well, it's a stupid comment, and I'd never heard it put that way, and that's exactly, that just says it all. It's a tool. It's a tool like any other tool. Let's be like saying, you know, I can pick up a hammer made by E-Wing and, you know, drive the hell out of nails, but if you give me one made by, I don't know, pick another hammer manufacturer, you know, Cobalt. Oh, I miss every nail I swing at. Horseshit. You know, it's you. It's not the tool. So it's a cop-out. It really is. So, like I said, work on your grip. This is the key to the beginning of fundamental shooting. Get everything in there, get it lined up, fold it over, get a good tight grip on the gun. Last thing I'm going to point out about that is I've always heard, well, you're supposed to hold, you know, 60% of the weight with the off-gun hand, and 40%, and 32%, and 30 and 49 horse, 100%, 100%. You're going to hold it to where you get the sights level, lined up, and stable, and use whatever muscles and shoulders and all that you need to accomplish that. You know, trying to figure out 60%, 60-40, or 50-50, or no, 100%, 100%, both hands. Get that good high tang grip, lock them fingers in there, put your hand at a 45-degree angle, point your thumb at your target, put the gun in the hole, close it. That is a decent starter grip for anybody. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. Check out my other videos. If you like what I'm putting out, go ahead and subscribe. Appreciate thumbs up or the like button or whatever you want to call it. Helps me get out around YouTube and around the internet and people watching the videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.